Hey everybody, I'm Larry Callahan from Pro-Touring.com, and I have a bunch of members here of Pro-Touring.com who recently competed in the 30th anniversary of the Brock Yates OneLap of America and swept the podium, taking first, second, and third. Let's get on with the introductions and say hello to everybody. Let them introduce themselves. Hi, Carl, how you doing?
Doing well, Larry. Thanks. Thanks for having us here today.
Glad to have you all here. Who else we got here? We got Jimmy. How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, Larry, I'm doing good, bud. How are you?
Doing good. And then Mary, how you
Yep.
doing there?
Oh, hey. No, never better. It's doing great.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Shipka James. How you doing?
I'm good, Larry. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So back in May, so it's what 3,400 miles you all ran plus for the event?
Give or take.
Yeah.
We had to turn around and go back after Kyle Tucker one time. That probably added a few.
Yeah, so those of you who don't know that the one lap is a bit like the old Cannonball Run, or I guess it's evolved from the old Cannonball Run, and it's kind of evolved into what it is today. And it's just a lot of driving at night, racing all day, lots of poor eating, and lots of sleep deprivation, and yeah, you guys did really well. So Carl, you finished with John Mann in what, third place, right?
Finished in third place. Yeah, it was our first year doing the one lap, and I was very fortunate last year running with James, learning a lot, and was able to take those experiences and put them into this car and run. And our goal was to finish. We did that, and we gave Jimmy a run for his money for second place.
Yeah, you guys actually tied for second, didn't you?
We tied in points, but
Tied
there
in
were
points, that's
two
right.
events that we did not complete, so the time kept running. So
Very
Jimmy's overall time was less than ours, so he ended up taking second place.
nice. Very cool, Jimmy. Yeah, congratulations. You ran and you had what navigator with you, Saroja?
Yep. And we were number two.
Number
Yes,
two.
we had a great time doing it. And yeah, and honestly, I have to say it was really thanks to Carl and all the help that he provided us a couple different occasions that we were able to finish all of the events that we did.
Very cool. Yeah, the camaraderie is awesome. You see everybody helping each other out.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and that's a big part of One Lap.
Very cool. Mary, you had you were riding along with James, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
two won.
We squeaked it out. We had some strategy going into this year's one lap. In 2011 we kind of ran unopposed, and so we were kind of free to make some driver changes and play, and each of us got to drive the individual tracks and whatnot. Whereas here we kind of decided we had some really stiff competition this year, and we were going to maximize our experience based on different tracks that we had driven in 2011, and then we kind of divvied up the ones that neither one of us had driven.
Very cool. And then James in the team one lap Camaro, man. Congratulations.
Thanks. It was this is four in a row, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. God, four in a row.
Yeah.
And ever you guys sweep with a 1, 2, 3. You made me all proud.
We were we were just blown away by that. We were so hoping that we would all do well. It wasn't just an individual thing, and each team. We were rooting for each other and really trying to make sure that we all helped each other. And I thought that that was just the coolest thing about the whole event.
Yeah. And it's a cool kind of a, bucket list item for me, I mean, I'd love to do it someday, but it's also one of those things that might kill me as well due to the number of miles you drive.
Not really. If things go right, it really is a pretty, I'm going to use the term easy event to compete in. I mean, I tell people you can do anything for a week. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is. Stand on your head. You can do anything for a week. When you have issues, mechanical, electrical, whatever they are, you learn pretty much two things. One, how do you get along with your co-driver? And two, which of your friends you can really count on?
Yeah, true.
And that, I think, really made the entire event for us. Is, we had Jimmy had some serious issues that I'll let him talk about, but we all hung back and we made sure he was good to go, and we weren't going to leave anybody behind unless we absolutely had to.
Yeah, no, friendly competitors and help each other out right up until the moment where I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make it. I gotta go.
We never got to that.
That's awesome.
And I'll tell you too, Larry, one of the things that's really the most stressful part of OneLap is actually the preparation. It's not the actual event itself. It's getting ready for the event and deciding what spare parts you want to take, what tools you're going to take, and that's kind of a key strategy when you're preparing for this, because you obviously can't take one of everything. So you have to kind of decide what you're going to take one of, what is most likely to break, or odds are this is going to wear out or something like that. And so really getting ready for this is the most stressful part. And James and I and Carl sat down a couple months before the event and said, okay, let's put our heads together, because you have to carry everything with you that you take. You have to carry all of your spare parts. You have to carry all of your tools, all of your luggage and everything, because you can't have any chase vehicles. So we sat down and really formed what I thought was a great strategy in the end of who was going to bring what tools and who was going to bring what spare parts, so that we didn't have a lot of duplicates of anything. And it was great, but what also happened with that is that we all stayed together because of that. We were all carrying parts or tools that maybe the other person might need, and it really helped bond all of us together as a real team.
That's cool. I mean, you didn't have to bring 6 jacks or 3 jacks and 6 jack stands and all that. Did you guys wind up needing many tools this year? I know there was some electrical gremlins James had.
Well, you know what? My electrical gremlins, we had issues on the first night, and it wound up that the gremlin was not even it was exactly that. It was a gremlin. It was a short in the heater.
Oh.
We just didn't turn the heat on for the rest of the week.
Yeah, that didn't require a single tool.
Yeah, we didn't do anything besides. Carl hopped in the trunk at a gas station at 11 o'clock at night to make sure the battery was tightened down properly, and that was the extent of it.
Well, you had that one problem going from New Orleans to Daytona where your repaired license plate lamp shorted out too.
And that's funny. This is the 4th time we've run it, and every time we've run it, we've been the Sherpa. We've towed the trailer. So
the coffin.
The coffin. And every year, one day, the trailer lights go out.
Oh, yeah.
It has happened.
No idea why.
Every year. It happened on the Pennsylvania Turnpike the first year. It's happened in the middle of nowhere. And on this one, we had an issue before we left on OneLap that we found the day before we left. We thought we had it fixed. And just as we were doing probably the most patrolled section of the highway that we would do for the entire week, suddenly we have no trailer lights.
Of course.
And every time we come to a town, we're driving along the Florida Panhandle. We're driving through the state capitol at 10 o'clock at night, and I've got absolutely no lights behind the car, and it's like, we should probably pull over now, but we got lots of gas, so let's just push on. We'll get it at the next place, and let's just tuck in behind someone and hope nobody sees us. And every time you drive by a trooper, it's like 100, 2 100, 3 100. Made it. Let's go.
He's not that bored. Yeah.
And the really frustrating thing is when we did finally stop for gas to try and fix it, we all kind of automatically assumed it was much worse than just a simple short. We're tearing apart the trailer light hitch. We're under the trailer. We're looking at that. We're checking the fuse panel, and it took probably 15 minutes before it dawned on me that, hey, you know what? We had this problem, a week ago. And of all the silly things, when we wrapped the car before OneLap, the rear bumper got taken off. And when the guys put it back on, they pinched the license plate light wire behind it. And all that had happened is that it shorted eventually. It just wore through the electrical tape. That screwed us up for 20 minutes.
Yeah. That was it.
That was an easy one to fix.
Yeah.
After you found it, huh?
But you know what? That's where the whole challenge of the event comes in. That was on the way to Daytona, so that was about halfway through. At this point in time, you're tired, you're hungry. You know, sleep deprivation to a certain degree is getting to you, and you're not thinking straight.
Sure.
James
And
is
that's
trying to
what
keep
makes
me
it-
awake. Yeah, I'm driving and I'm like, oh gosh, another 90 miles. Wait a minute. That's
Oh.
that.
Yeah, it's funny the thing.
Wait a minute.
It's funny the
No
thing
one told
you
me
do to
about this.
pass the time when you're on those long stretches.
Yeah.
I'll clue you in or fill you in on a little something here that I learned recently from Saroja.
Oh no.
We'll let Jimmy explain the story of why it was that this was what was keep everybody awake.
Shake that ass for me. Come on, girl, shake that ass for me. Shake that ass for me. Oh, girl, shake that ass for me. Come on, girl, shake that ass for me. Shake that ass for me.
So, Jimmy, you want to tell us what that was all about?
Well, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things you do in the car to while away the time, and the when you've done 2 track sessions in a day, and you pull out of the parking lot at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you've got a 651-mile journey. A lot of people wouldn't take off on a 650-mile journey in a day.
Let alone after having...
Right, let alone after having run the track twice. Now it's middle of the afternoon and you're taking off. So a lot of the transit stages were like that. And I don't know if everybody knows, but Saroja came along as a transit driver for me. So I drove all the tracks, and she helped a lot on the transit stages. But even when it gets to be, if that's all you're doing is the transit stages, you get bored, you get tired, just like everything else. So we came up with all kinds of things to keep ourselves entertained while we were driving. And we played various games with the iPod. We'd plug it in and say, okay, let's play the 2 most opposite songs on your iPod. So you'd play AC/DC, and then you'd play the Partridge Family. Something really silly like that. And it was getting particularly late on that transit stage to Daytona. Not only was it long, but we lost an hour because we went from Central Time to Eastern Time. So we lost an hour just with the time change. So I was flipping through my iPod looking for a song to entertain her, and that one actually came on, and I actually started dancing in the seat. And actually that worked really well because she giggled about that for like 2 days. It really worked out well, but it got us to Daytona and to the hotel where we needed to be. She was still laughing when we got there.
Saroja was so much fun. She added so much levity and just kind of like a breath of fresh air to this event for us. It was great to have her along. I hope you guys continue with that partnership because it obviously works. You guys, it was great.
Well, we are doing the Sand Hills Open Road Challenge is coming up in 2 weeks, and we're doing it together. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do all of you have plans to do it again next year?
We're in.
Yeah, we're in.
And I'm going to be in some form or fashion. I'm planning on running the Chihuahua Express next year, which happens to be the week prior to OneLap. But I'm talking to somebody right now about driving one of their vehicles as a sponsored deal.
Very cool.
You can do anything for 2 weeks, Jimmy.
That was 2 weeks.
Next time we talk, Mary, it's a little longer.
Okay, 2.5.
So, James, I mean, you've run this the most, right? You've run it 4 times. Nobody else.
Yes.
What drives you to do it every year? Why go back?
You know what? The first time I did it, it was really to prove a point, and I mean absolutely no offense to Mike Hickman, who runs what's the original OneLap Camaro, and he's competed in the event 25 times. But it's a 78 Camaro, and when I was building my car, I kept looking at the results of the OneLap of America, and the winning car in Vintage American was a 78 Camaro. It's like, well, that's not really vintage. And when you consider all these cool Pro Touring cars, surely we can do it. So the first time I did it was to try and just prove that we could. It's become kind of my week of
Hell.
well, not hell, Mary, but thanks. It's the year of hell before it that really gets you.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really fun racing. You know, racing now falls into kind of two categories. You got the grassroots events like Gail and Steve run the Silver State Classic, and that's old school racing. It's fun. It's kind of relaxed. Very professional, though. And Brock Yates Jr. runs the One Lap of America like it's a bunch of your buddies running in, the most difficult but awesome race you can imagine. And it just has that feeling. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone knows each other. It's as much a social event as SEMA is or any other event. But it's as professionally raced as a Winston Cup deal. It's awesome.
Well run, well orchestrated.
But fun. It hasn't lost that. It hasn't lost that entertainment. You go to events sometimes and it's an iron fist and nothing seems to go right. And with Brock, it's his way or the highway. The rules are pretty straightforward. But in the 4 years I've run it, there's never been an incident. There's never been there's been incidents, but there's never been a personality issue. There's never been we've never been 3 hours late starting or finishing or anything. It runs. It's fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what this is supposed to be. Motorsports racing, whether it's autocross or road racing, it's supposed to be fun, and the One Lap is fun.
Yeah.
I think there was a video that came out recently on the One Lap where there were two participants who said, "This is a once in a lifetime experience that we do every year."
Yeah.
And it kind of sums it up. Once you do it once, you've got the bug.
You get
And
hooked.
with Brock, if you want to see something really entertaining, and thank God it's not directed at you, but watch him when somebody goes off course, because it's an entirely different animation, and you see him throw stuff, and he'll throw words around and everything like that, and he just sits there and he gets pretty excited over that, and then all is okay. He gets things reset, and you get back out there, and you're good to go, and he runs a very well organized ship, and that I think is what keeps people coming back as well. Is that you kind of know what you're going to get. There's no surprises.
Yeah, but he runs it as a family, and that's why when he gets frustrated at an off or something, it's not because as the organizer of the event he's PO'd about it. He's genuinely he's worried about the guys in the car.
Yeah.
Because we're all friends, and it's like, and he takes this really seriously. This is his baby. We talk about how it takes a year to prepare for this for us. I know that he's already booking tracks for next year. He puts 11 months of blood, sweat, and tears into organizing this event and making it so that it goes off without a hitch.
Mm-hmm.
And he worries about everybody while they're on track, and that's again, it's part of what makes it fun, because he's personally involved. I remember last year we ran at Brainerd. Brainerd has one of the fastest racetracks in North America. There were cars hitting 185, 190 miles an hour at the end of the front straight, and when the last car went off, Brock lit up a cigarette, said, "God, I can breathe again. That was awesome. We are never going to do that again."
Yep.
That is moving. All right, let's make some rounds. Jimmy, what was your favorite event or favorite track? Favorite event?
Probably this year for me was Daytona. Just because when I ran One Lap in 2011, I spun at Daytona. Didn't hit anything, luckily, but I spun, and Daytona can be a little bit of an intimidating track if you haven't been on it. But I felt like I left something there that I wanted to come back and get. And on the first session out at Daytona, I led the vintage class in times. That was kind of a vindication for me.
Very cool. Carl, how about yourself? What was your favorite track or event?
I went into it thinking it was going to be Daytona. Back in 2011, I had actually scheduled to fly out to Daytona to see James and Mary run. But a couple days beforehand, I had to cancel. unfortunately, James and Mary couldn't run there either. So I had already had in my mind that going to Daytona was going to be the place. I mean, it's such a storied place. It's just it's an immense facility. You come into the infield and you look around. It's intimidating.
It's big.
Just going there, and it was just a fantastic place to go. But from a track guy standpoint, I've never been to a place like VIR. VIR is just a phenomenal facility. Larry, you and I were talking the other day about it. Just to walk around VIR in the morning and be at such a beautiful facility. I mean, the place has skeet shooting. It has a day spa. It has all kinds of just wonderful facilities. It's like going to the Pebble Beach of race courses. So for me, that was just that was a fantastic place to go.
It didn't hurt that you kicked butt, too.
If you said anything but VIR, I was going to call you a liar.
Yep.
I had a good day there. I was very fortunate.
Very cool. Mary, what was your...
James, it was really funny. James came off the course after VIR, the first session. He goes, Carl kicked my butt. Carl kicked my butt. He must have said that 10 times. And he was like, Carl just kicked my butt.
And that was kind of an understatement. Not only did Carl kick butt, Carl it was phenomenal to watch from my perspective. Just phenomenal to watch.
That was the track for Carl.
It was excellent.
Yeah. Well, for me, when you go to these places, some of the things you have to do before you go out. You haven't been to these places before. I never driven on VIR before. All the tracks I hadn't driven before. So you try to get yourself into a mindset before you go out there. You've got to focus and concentrate. And that day was the 1-year anniversary of my father's death. So just before that event, I had taken some pictures. I put some things out on Facebook saying, thank you to him for that. And I gotten fairly emotional, but then I knew the event was coming up and I had to turn that off. So that focus really, I think, helped me out quite a bit by being able to having to turn everything else off and focus only on the job at hand.
Yeah, just that.
It was great.
Yeah. So what was your favorite place, Mary?
The autocross? No. I would have to say Daytona. I'd have to agree with Jimmy on that because, we talked about strategy in the beginning of this, and, James and I, we tried to maximize the tracks that we knew the best. But for Daytona, because being it's such a bucket list track, we agreed one was going to drive the morning and the other was going to drive the afternoon. And so James got the morning, I got the afternoon. And in my set, they would actually take 6 cars and send them all out at the same time. They would space them out and whatnot, but it was six cars to a grouping. And the group before mine went out, and they have a portion of that track called the bus stop, and I think a Viper ended up on the wrong end of the bus stop, and he had to be dragged out, so they had to bring everybody back in. And so now there's 5 coming back in, and Brock, he comes up to me and he says, now, you're not going to do anything stupid. And I said, duh, no, trust me on this. I have a lot of respect for this track. And then, of course, they sent the 5 out again. They started all afresh, and somebody else got into the bus stop wrong, and he ends up on the wrong end of the bus stop. So now there's 4 that come back. And my last words that somebody had with me, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't any of our grouping. They come over and they say, watch out for the bus stop. There's a lot of gravel in it.
Oh, great.
Oh, this is wonderful. So, right. Yeah, you're headed out there. And I didn't find the gravel. I got through it just fine. I was really, really pleased. But starting off, how you do is you go for what's called a recon lap, and then you come to the start and everybody stops. And then they send you out on a consecutive, cumulative 3-lap time trial. Mm-hmm. And so I go out first, second, fifth. We'll go down to fourth. We'll go back up to fifth. Let's try second. Third was there when we got to the track, and I felt pretty confident that there was a third somewhere in that transmission. I just had yet to find it, and it seemed like it took forever, but finally found third, and we went around there. But the banking, I'd have to say the banking is the most intimidating thing to do at speed because the feeling I got was like when you go down an elevator and your stomach just kind of goes up to your throat. Mm-hmm. Heavy on that. And you're thinking, I'm going to die, but boy, is this fun. It's kind of like a real catch-22, and the markers going into some of the turns, very hard to spot when you're doing 150 some odd miles an hour. And I mean, the whole track was the most intimidating track that I've ever been on. And I came away thinking, I never want to do this again. And when can I do it again? It was a real weird deal. But glad I survived. The car survived. We were able to continue on, and that was the main focus too. It was actually pretty cool.
Cool.
Mary got back to the garage and said, I saw God.
I then came back and I said, I need a cigarette.
And then she said, I need a cigarette because I just had sex.
I don't smoke.
And then she said, I'm never doing that again.
Never. So James, what was your favorite event of the whole one lap?
I'm gonna probably combine everyone. I went into it fully expecting Daytona to be it.
Mm-hmm.
Because 2 years ago when Mary and I were supposed to run it, we unfortunately broke about 150 miles from Daytona and weren't able to make it. And it's a bucket list track.
Mm-hmm.
But the car started to misbehave at Daytona. We started to have some engine problems, and it was a lot of fun, but it really wasn't the high point. I think the high point, despite Carl kicking my butt, the first run out was VIR. And what made VIR cool is we had 3 shots at it. We ran the south track first, then we ran the north track, and then we ran the full track. And when we went and we ran the south track, the first one, for reasons that I can't explain, my head just wasn't in it. And I think I was first or second in our group, and Carl was behind me. And if you race, you kind of know what this is like. And at one point in time, I looked in the mirror and said, Carl's coming. That's cute. I kept going.
Your mirror was full of Carl, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I said, Carl's coming. I'm going to pick it up a little bit. And then we got to the same point on the next lap, and I looked in my mirror, and it's like, holy shoot, Carl's coming.
Carl's there.
And he did.
Carl has arrived.
I had a complete brain fart. And then we went to the north track, and I kind of kicked Carl's butt. I was like, that's better. And then we ran the full track, and I think Carl and I were within 1/10 of a second of each other. Carl still got the win, but we were right there. And it was kind of like, it's part of what happens in one lap is you have bad runs, you have bad days, but there's no do-overs. You got to pull your pants up and do the next run. And it was vindication. And VIR is, it's a cool track. We stayed at VIR at the track at a hotel on the side of the track the night before.
That was neat.
And I made the mistake of walking the track in the morning. And I say the mistake. I made the mistake of leaving about 15 minutes after Carl did. And walked the track, and it's cool because it's the only track I've ever been to where there's 5 guys on the track with shovels scooping goose poop off the track. But
that's a new one.
It's a long track. It's
3.75 miles.
And frankly, I was a little bit behind. I had like 5 minutes to spare, and I actually think I ran the last quarter mile or half mile.
James ran. Good going. Awesome.
He didn't want to, Mary.
I didn't want to. They were going to let the person on the track. I had to.
Pack those little miniature bicycles to put in your trunk, take with you.
Some guys do. Some guys
do.
take scooters. Some guys take little fold-up bikes.
Everybody's got a story about VIR because Carl, did really well there, and James actually, really enjoyed the track just because, it's just such a beautiful facility. And I didn't have such great luck at VIR. I did a little agricultural racing on the north track, but the funnest part of VIR, and we all had a great experience there, is when we arrived at VIR at midnight or whatever time it was. We got there, and it's pitch black at VIR because there's no lights out there. It's in the middle of this beautiful forested hills, and we got there, and it was foggy. And we all have these cool headlights. In fact, we've all got, these great cool parts on our car, and the whole week, the only thing anybody wanted to talk to us about was our headlights, these cool headlights we have. But when we backed the cars into the condo, there was a 3-car garage under the condo. We backed them all in with the headlights on and with the mist It was the most awesome sight you've ever seen, and I'll bet we spent 30 or 40 minutes just taking pictures of our cars with the headlights on in the midst when we got there.
We did.
When you should be sleeping, getting ready for the next day.
It was like Blair Witch Project meets Christine times 3. It was so much fun, and I mean, we are all trying to get all artsy fartsy and take these really cool pictures. And okay, I got this, I got that. John Mont, he got the best picture because his looked like lightning bolts on the wall.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Yeah, they actually had brushed stainless on the walls of the garage, and when you turned all the lights off in the garage, the tail lights on the rippled stainless made lightning bolts. It was cool.
Oh, that's cool.
It was very cool.
Then you wake up the following morning, and I walked outside, and there's this balcony that's overlooking the front straight.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some video.
This is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very cool. Any, like, places you don't want to go back? Horrible, like, you know, don't want to bash the track, but I mean, is there any place, I would rather not go there next year?
I don't know. We ran a new track, NOLA, New Orleans, LA, I guess Louisiana.
Yeah, it's just New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah, and I mean, the hospitality at that track was awesome. They gave us T-shirts, which was really neat. I still have mine, which was really welcome too, because when you pack for one lap, you pack the bare minimum. Right. It's slim pickings out there.
You actually count on getting T-shirts someplace.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. We're like, oh, good.
Actually, the owner of NOLA came out and started talking to everybody.
Yeah.
You guys did, but he came over and talked to me for a couple of minutes. A super nice guy. Yeah. How often does that happen, where the owner of the track comes out and genuinely wants feedback of what you think of the place?
Very cool. Hey, you know, while we're on the topic of T-shirts here, Jimmy, that one that's behind you on the wall. Let's chat about that. People can get those, right? Isn't there? There's one that's themed for each.
There's actually, and all of us are wearing them. I have on mine, and this is the back of mine. Carl's wearing his. But our OneLap Vintage team this year, K&N and Spectre were generous enough to sponsor T-shirts for each one of our teams. And these were the T-shirts we wore during the week, and they are for sale. There's a website here. I don't know if you can read it or not, but it's onelapvintageteam.weebly.com. And T-shirts are on sale there. You can buy them individually, or you can buy the whole set, and price includes shipping. We have some left.
Very cool.
I'd be wearing mine, but it shrunk.
Yeah. No.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Right.
Oh, what else we got here? Let's see. Okay, what would you change about your Crow drivers? Is there something that annoyed you, bothered you, tweaked you?
You know, the only thing I can do to fix my co-driver is fix my car.
You're doing that.
We don't have, you know, all this exotic audio stuff that Jimmy has in his car, and Mary and I spend most of our time entertaining ourselves playing What's That Sound?
What's that sound?
And this year, as the car gradually, I mean, I'm honestly surprised we made it through OneLap this year, but we started with What's That Sound, then it became What's That Smell?
Then it became What's That Smoke?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mosquito Abatement was proud.
Is that the transmission that I smell, or is that the rear end now? I don't know. And when we were coming into South Bend for the final, you know, usually on Friday night when you roll into South Bend, it's kind of this big wave of relief. We rolled into South Bend with the transmission making this funny smell, a little bit of smoke coming behind the car, about a quarter of a gallon of gas in the tank. You know, we got on the phone as we're coming up towards South Bend and saying, you know what, guys, we're not going to be able to make it to the exit we were planning on. We got to leave now. And here's a tidbit for anyone who wants to run OneLap. Make sure your GPS is up to date. Because we pull into South Bend, all we need is a gas station. More than anything in the world, we'll give our eye teeth for a gas station. Now, we also have gas in the trailer, so a nice big parking lot would be fine too. It's 5:30 at night, so if South Bend has rush hour, it's kind of rush hour. And it starts sticking us in the middle of these roads that we can't get off of. We have no idea where we are, and I have no idea where the GPS is taking us.
And I'm saying, James, we need to turn around. We need to turn around. We finally did.
So if we can make the car stop smoking, squeaking, and smelling funny, we'll be fine. And Mary will be fine too.
Yeah, Larry, the only thing I would say about my co-driver, first of all, she was great because she did the transit stages, and that's a big help. But probably the only thing that was irritating was I think everybody else on the team besides me got a shoulder massage. I have pictures of Mary laying flat out on the concrete, getting this like massage that looked. I thought Mary was like passed out unconscious. She's so relaxed.
I needed a cigarette for that too.
And I didn't.
That was good.
I didn't get one either, Jimmy.
I didn't get one.
Oh, all right. Well, I
This
guess
is Mary World again, right?
Oh, right.
Mary World, yeah.
How was the weather during most of the event? I think I saw some rain.
A
Well,
little bit here, yeah.
I have a comment about my co-driver, and might
Oh,
be
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
for some other people too.
John.
Yeah, well, John kind of got into this driving thing about 3 years ago, and the car that he bought to go out and have fun with is a C5 Corvette, which does everything really well. It's quite a bit different than the Camaro is. So when he gets in the Camaro and he drives it and it doesn't do something quite right, he says, well, just fix that. Well, it's not quite that easy to do. So I think it really kind of comes down to two things. I wish, one, that John could spend more time fixing it the way he fixed it, and then he'd have more seat time in the car as well.
And that's funny, because I thought you were going to say the one problem that your co-driver has is with 50 cents.
That's what I was going to say. The same thing.
Me too.
Who's no longer going to carry change in the ashtray?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. James brought up something a while back where we're going to look back on this event and realize how close things were. A little bit here, a little bit there changes the results. John at Daytona was going through a bus stop and spun on his first lap. And when he spun, he thought he heard something mechanical, something rattling around when it happened. And he did the right thing. He brought the car back in because we had a long way to go. We wanted to make sure that the car was going to finish. Brought it back in. We looked over the car, and short time to get there. Looked the car over, and it was fine. But later on today, as we're driving down the road, he opened up the ashtray, the stock one that's underneath the radio, and it rattled around, and there were quarters in there that we were using to go through the toll booths with. And that's probably what he was. So it was 50 cents that cost us second place in this whole thing. So
you got quartered.
Yeah, you got
drawn and quartered.
Drawn and quartered.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like quarters in a bus stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna take that bus. So weather, I did see you guys did a lot of driving in the rain, huh?
Some. One event.
Once we got to Daytona, it rained at PIR, but not while we were driving.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was remnants of it.
Yeah, we had a long drive in the rain though. Between Alabama and New Orleans?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nashville, it was pouring rain.
Yeah, it rained most of that evening. Actually, I was thankful for that rain because it wasn't that fun to drive in, but that was the night that the fuel line popped off of my car, and everything under the hood was wet and soaked, and I firmly believe that, and just some sheer luck kept the car from catching on fire. Mary talked about being at Daytona and seeing God. Well, that was my seeing God moment, is when the car died, I rolled off and lifted up the hood, and the entire top of the engine was flooded with fuel, and realizing that it didn't catch fire.
Yeah, probably because
it was too rich.
That was... Yeah.
It couldn't support combustion. Too rich, yeah.
Yeah,
It very easily could have, though.
That was my moment.
Cool.
And when we got the phone call, I think Mary said, hey, Jimmy's car died, no fuel pressure, and John and I, we turned around, we're heading back, and I'm going through the whole fueling thing in my head, and I'm going, something happened to the system. Something doesn't just die like that. But this kind of goes back to what Jimmy was saying about the planning and preparation for OneLap, and the conversations we had about what parts to take. Well, for weeks ahead of time, I had been packing and categorizing everything and making sure I knew where everything was. So when we managed to get Jimmy back to a gas station, we had a new part, got it out, got it put in the car, everything repacked in about 15 minutes.
Nice.
That's awesome.
If you didn't have that and you didn't know the parts that were available, it could have taken you an hour to dig through all this stuff because we had an incredible amount of stuff packed into the car. So it's those things that take you days to get ready for to save you time on the road.
Sure. All in the preparation.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
all
the
in the prep.
preparation, but it was really neat because they had every square millimeter of that Camaro packed with something. And they knew where everything went. And, we're getting ready to leave the track at the end of the afternoon run sessions, and we're thinking, oh, we got time. We can sit there and maybe kind of just lollygagging our ass up. They got all this stuff to pack. They could pack that thing faster than we could probably hitch up the trailer. They were that
Nice.
good at it. And we're
Nice.
like, oh, man, they're done. We got to get going. We don't want to be the last one holding everybody up. But they knew exactly where everything was, where it went. They knew how to get to it. I mean, so organized. It was just excellent.
There you go.
Well, we might not be able to beat you on the track, Mary, but we can outpack you.
You guys, oh my gosh, you guys came so close. The times between the teams as far as the driving, we're talking less than a tenth in some cases, 3/10.
3
It was-
1,000ths of a G.
Yeah.
1,000ths of
Yeah.
a G. Yeah,
I know.
That's what it came down to. It was
How
three
do you
1,000ths
measure
of a
that?
G there. It was a half a second here. It was small numbers.
I know.
Very, very well matched.
Very
Very
much.
well matched.
Very much. We've really taught us that we need to kind of go back to the drawing board and throw some more Benjamins at James's car, which he's doing, and unfortunately they're all sticking. But we're making a better mousetrap for next year.
No.
You know what?
Cool.
One of the really fun things on OneLap though was that there was at least once or twice on OneLap there was a day or a track that one of our team kicked ass.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there was, James and Mary got a pretty good lead right off the bat, but at the same time, like Carl at VIR, he just kicked everybody's butt. John kicked everybody's butt in the rain at PIR.
Amazing.
I kicked some butt at Daytona,
Yes.
which was the last place I thought I would kick butt, but I did. So everybody had kind of their day in the sun, which was really fun with the team because when we all celebrated with each other. When somebody did really well or when we were really, really close, we were really patting each other on the back saying, great job.
Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. On the very last day when we had the dry skid pad, all of us were going through it. We were talking about how things could turn out. But after I got done with my dry skid pad run, I had to come back by and pass Jimmy, who was waiting in line. I knew Jimmy was going to be nervous but at the same time very excited about going out and doing this. So I passed him by. I gave him the thumbs up and was telling him, "Hey, come get me. Chase it down." And then I drove the car, found the very first place I could park, not where I'm supposed to park, but found the first place I could park, and ran back out there with my helmet, my gloves, my suit. I had everything on so I could go out and watch Jimmy. And I think all of us, myself included, we would much rather compete against somebody when they're at their best,
Sure.
and lose than to go out there and
win because they broke down.
Yeah.
Well, and by the end of one lap, we all had parts on Jimmy's car.
Yeah, I was just about to head there. There's a video on YouTube, isn't there, Jimmy, of a little shock fitting?
Yeah, it's on the Center Force AMX Facebook page at Daytona. When we built the car, and I have to give a lot of kudos to Randy Johnson at D&Z Customs because he helped me build just a killer car. Doing and completing the One Lap of America is a real testament to the driver and the car because that is probably one of the most grueling things that you can do to a car. I mean, if you think we went door to door 4,604 miles, we did 17 track days in a week. Now, there's just not many cars in the country that can just do that. And so it's a real testament to the cars that run this and the drivers that do it. And Randy really helped me put together a supercar. But one of the things that we didn't take into consideration when we built the car was the high banks of Daytona. And there's a huge lateral load on the high banks of Daytona. And when we had mounted the RideTech shocks, which, you know, the RideTech shocks are great. They're adjustable. We can just do so many things with them. But I mount mine inverse so that the rebound buttons are on the bottom. Makes it a little easier to get to.
Upside down.
What that does is it puts the banjo fitting up near the top, and the high lateral loads of Daytona actually moved the rear end side to side, knocked the banjo fitting off of the shock, so all of the hydraulic oil came out of it.
Suddenly.
And it's fairly dramatic on the video. And I didn't know what happened. Honestly, I thought I lost a tire, is what it sounded like to me.
Wow.
Because the rear end just started hopping up and down. And if you watch the video, you'll see that I slowed dramatically because it happened right as I was coming out of turn 4 into the tri-oval, and that's going as fast as you're going on that track. I mean, you're upwards of 150 miles an hour. And so I slowed dramatically, and as soon as I slowed down, the sound went away, and I knew it wasn't a flat tire. So I really didn't know what it was. I wiggled the car back and forth, and I didn't feel anything move. And I just couldn't figure out what it was. But I also knew that we were very, very close in the points. And I needed to try and finish that event. Even if I just crawled the car around, I just needed to finish it. So I did. I ran the entire course in 4th gear. And because if I got over 110 miles an hour, it just went wild. I actually spun going into what is turn 6 at Daytona, but it's really the first turn after the start. You know, the car just unloaded. It just unloaded. All the weight went to one side, and there was nothing there, and it just looped right around. And I came back into the garage area, and I saw a big puddle of shock oil underneath where I had the car parked that I didn't see when I pulled out. So I felt lucky. The whole time I was out there, I was just hoping a wheel didn't come off, and you're going to go into the barrier if that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, you learn things like that. We lost a shock, so of course, I was on the phone with Brett, and he immediately had one shipped to the next track where we were going. He said, there'll be one there waiting for you in the morning. So we took off, and that was our trip from Daytona. We were driving up to Carolina Motorsports Park, which that was one of the shorter transit stages. It was, 400 miles or something. But, and we thought we could make it. But the roads were terrible.
Sorry, guys.
The roads were terrible, and I'm carrying, 400 to 500 pounds of extra stuff in the car because it's loaded down with tools and luggage and everything else. And so the remaining shock that we had just couldn't take that kind of a load. And so we ended up losing the other one about halfway through the trip. I went over a bridge, and it just, the whole car bottomed out, rubbed both side tires, and I knew then that something was awry. We pulled over into a gas station. Of course, James and Carl followed, and I looked underneath the car, and the remaining shock that was good when we left was all wet. And fortunately, James had brought a set of old monotubes that he had taken off of his car when he put the triples on, and they weren't quite the right length, but we made them work. When we left that gas station, the car looked like it had skyjackers on it. It had a real nice weight to it. It was sitting up about 2 inches in the back. But it worked, and it got us there. We got to Carolina Motorsports Park, ran well there. So we got through that. But those are the things that you do. And we spent 3.5 hours in a gas station parking lot with every tool that we all had laying on the ground, parts. And that was the really neat thing because we had all brought different things. And one of the things that I had to bring was lighting, because if you have to work on something at night. So I bought these cool-ass LED lights that have magnets and they stick to things. And
that thing was cool.
It was cool, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We had those out. We had every tool out that we had. Carl had his car half unpacked, getting at tools and things that we needed, and it looked like quite a fiasco there in that gas station parking lot. But we got it fixed and got on the road and got back to where we were going with the help. There was no way I could have done that by myself. That was true teamwork to make that happen.
Help from
We actually
everybody.
made those shocks work. We wound up. Brett did send the replacement to the track the next day, but you kept those monotubes on. We just got the ride height right and got them set and.
Yeah, and believe it or not, at Carolina Motorsports Park, I was under the car trying to figure out what I was going to do. Actually, Kyle Tucker came over and dove under the car with me and said, "Hey, let's try this, let's try this." Gave me all kinds of suggestions to help out and make sure that I was competitive that day.
You did. I mean, shock change aside, Jimmy, it didn't seem to slow you down one bit.
No.
You did great.
Really well.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But that just goes back to how good the RideTech products really are, because that was old technology from a RideTech perspective, and the car still worked really well.
Yep.
Yeah, still performed well.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Food. I know there's.
Some lack thereof.
Art can give you.
I remember seeing a picture of Carl. I'm looking. I've got a picture on my wall here. Carl holding a bag of
catfish.
Catfish.
Yeah.
I get photos.
In a little paper bag. You dared on a trip like that.
Well,
you tried
catfish.
It's the experience. We're driving from NOLA to Daytona, and it's pretty late in the afternoon, and I think in the Camaro we were getting the best gas mileage, and we would know, okay, James is going to have to call for gas pretty soon, because we knew when our gas level got to a certain point, James was going to be needing some fuel. So he sent out a text and said, okay, we got to get gas. So we pulled off at this exit in Florida, thinking there's going to be a gas station there. Well, there's nothing. You have to make a left, and we went back over. We're driving through the woods. I'm like, where is this gas station? We drove about a mile off, and you end up in this little dinky town. I don't think there could have been more than maybe 50 people that lived here, and half of them were hanging out in this little full pump gas station that was a throwback, probably 30 years, that had this really a pretty big store in it.
It went forever.
It was like a general store.
It must have gone 100 feet back. It was real narrow, but it went like 100 feet back. It was huge. But they had this one section where they had bags of deep-fried food, and one of them was catfish in a white bag. And so it was catfish in a bag for $1.99, and I was getting pretty hungry, and there was nothing else in the store, and I went, all right, I'm going to risk it, because it's OneLap. So, yeah, it ended up getting catfish in a bag.
Brave,
but it's actually a really neat place, because Though all we really wanted to do was stop for gas and get some food, which normally would have taken about 10 minutes or so, we stayed there for probably 20, 25 minutes, because all these people must have thought that aliens had landed, because you see these three cars pull into this gas station like that. They're looking at us like, oh, you ain't from around here, are you, boy?
No. That was fun. Oh, my God.
Mary, helmet. F-bomb sticker.
I'm still trying to figure out which one of you tards did that.
Yeah, so
was it you, Jimmy?
She wound up with an F-bomb sticker on her helmet, and she doesn't know where it came from.
No. Yeah. It's one of you guys. You will get yours. That was so funny. And it took me, I guess, I don't know when they did it, but they, I think I figured it, I think I finally found it like at PIR, which was the last track we ran. And I look at the helmet going, wait a minute, wait a minute, and it shows this bomb with a big F-bomb on it and everything like that. They stuck it on my helmet. They got me. It was good. Still
I have a picture of your helmet in the car from Carolina, I think.
Was it on it?
It was on there from at least then.
I'm clueless.
I didn't even know.
I didn't even have any of the catfish either.
Oh, you were still suffering from the Waffle House the night before.
Oh, we call it Awful House.
That's the Awful House.
It's the worst place, I swear.
That was. Where else can you get food at 1 o'clock in the morning?
But
Any
you know
mini
what?
mart, I'd
Your
rather
options
have
are limited.
That was all my fault. And Larry, I feel really bad on this one because we were getting into New Orleans, and Saroja said, can we stop and get some food? And I said, hey, we're going to be in New Orleans in a minute. It's the best food around.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just get there.
The best.
And by the time we got through New Orleans, we were at the hotel, and we weren't in New Orleans anymore.
Right.
And the only thing was open was the Waffle House attached to the hotel. And what was supposed to be our early night with good food.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And not that the hotel was in a bad neighborhood. There was only the one shooting down the block in the middle of the night that night.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. Only one.
Well, the security guard was a nice touch.
He was, and he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
We could have parked the cars in our room. We would have.
Yep. And Mary made the biggest party foul ever because who goes into a Waffle House and orders a salad?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was, yeah,
That was
long way
way
from
better than
Selena's
catfish.
lettuce. Paid like $3 for this little dinner salad, and there's like 3 pieces of lettuce on it and a tomato that looks like you could probably carbon date it. It was that bad.
When they had to call help in to cook, we knew we were in the wrong place.
And she only had like 2 teeth. It was,
Did she have both of them?
I don't know.
Oh, was that one on top and one on the bottom?
I think so. Remember that? Oh my gosh.
I do. The
Nothing
tattoo
quite tops the bearded lady, but it was bad.
Oh, the bearded
Teeth were
lady.
great.
Oh my gosh. We missed her. You guys had the bearded
Oh,
lady.
bastard.
We stayed in better digs.
Yeah, we had the bearded lady.
well,
No.
we're gonna if we do this again, we're gonna stay at where you guys were, James and Mary, because though we didn't have the bearded lady at the Super 8 again, the person that was running the front counter decided to have their entire extended family come and hang out in the lobby and the pool area. So you got up at 7:30 in the morning. There's a dozen screaming children without any supervision. Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, that was like that was like a little family reunion going on there.
Inbreeding.
Inbreeding.
It's Indiana.
I'm just thinking about some of the pictures that I saw, being posted up during the event, and there's one where I don't know. It looked like a how many people can you stuff in Carl's Camaro event?
Oh, yeah, it was cold.
That was actually, that was at South Bend because the day we got back there, it was freezing that day. Literally,
It was like 36 degrees in the morning.
It was damp and chilly.
Oh,
And Carl had the best heater of everybody.
he had the best heater, and John was in there with Saroja and me, and John was just smiling, grinning from ear to ear. He thought that was great.
James can't turn his on.
Yeah, I know. Just wore coats. Actually, it wasn't too bad, being in there in James's car. Heater aside, you have header heat, so that works.
Well, it ended up being a kind of a competitive, strategic move for all of us in that it was really cold that day and it was dry skid pad. So I had started the car just to help keep Mary and Saroja warm, and then after a while I'm thinking, well, God, the tires are going to be really cold. And then you go over and feel the tires after the car's been idling for like an hour, and they're supposed to be warm. Like, hey, I like this idea. So I just let the car idle as long as I could to get the tires warm.
We really appreciate it, and we were very upset when you made us leave. It was fun, though. It was just a great event, and one of the things that we all tried to do was get to the track early enough every morning so we could walk the track. That was kind of a ritual with us. And, kind of get an idea, lay of the land, especially the tracks that we either had run before or were definitely new to us. And one of the neat things was having Kyle Tucker and Ryan Matthews be part of OneLap this year.
Yeah, they ran in the big
Late
something.
or something
Yes,
go
GT
fast,
big
whiz
car
bang,
class.
expensive
Yes, the
class.
GT2 class.
Yeah, and Kyle has a lot of experience, and so does Ryan, running at a lot of these tracks in the South and in the East Coast that we ran this year, and they were very helpful in getting us around. A lot of good information.
There you go. Sounds like
a lot of great information from those guys.
Oh, yeah.
They had some tools, equipment, experience that were very helpful for us. But it was their first year doing it also, and they put that car together in just 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really tough for them, and even for them, it was a learning experience because there were some things that happened to the car along the way that they realized, hey, we didn't make the right choice on parts, because the OneLap is so different than going to a dedicated one-day track event where you can trailer the car to and from the track. So it's a much more challenging event from that perspective, in that you really need to have a car that has a dual personality, where it's comfortable, reliable, can tow things, but at the same time can get her done when it's time.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we're looking at for next year with James's car, is changing it so that it's a little more comfortable for the passenger. We're looking at going with maybe a fixed back seat for the driver and a reclinable seat for the passenger. The car's really going on kind of like a remake. It's kind of neat. I'm really excited when it's done and drivable, and we can hopefully see that we've actually maximized some of the efforts we put into it.
Bunch of improvements, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another funny thing about Kyle Tucker is that he likes those little mini chocolate donuts. He thinks those things are like
little roll.
Yeah.
No, he likes the bags.
Well, yeah, except when you buy them, you buy like a bag of 50, which of course we did, and
they were on sale. Buy one get one free.
Yeah, and we got that too. I mean, so we had little mini chocolate donuts coming out of our ears, and so Kyle goes, this is towards the end of the events. He goes, I'm going, you want a donut? And he goes, sure, yeah, I really love those things. So I went and reached into the bag, not realizing the bag had been sitting in the sun, and then it got cold at night, and all the donuts had kind of fused and melted together. So it was a one big, probably glop of about 30 donuts. So I pulled out this huge donut ball, and it said, here, and he started just cracking up. He thought that was the funniest thing in the world. I gave him the whole bag and everything. But here's donuts for life, and oh my God, it was so much fun running with those guys and just talking to them on the transit stages, and we'd be passing each other and they'd pass us, and we had trailer races because they're towing this little pod that they had rewrapped from, they had apparently rented it from the U-Haul, like those little clamshell things.
Yeah.
And we're like, going down the road and just having a great old time. I got a picture of Ryan sawing logs in the passenger seat. He's got his mouth open, and I'm going, oh, this is too good. So,
we got a good picture of James doing that too.
I know, wasn't that fun?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there coming alongside of you, and John's going, "What does she want?" And I'm pointing at James. He's just like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, get a picture of him. Sorry, James.
Back to the trailer.
Yeah.
Kyle had rented that U-Haul trailer, and they actually wrapped it so that it looked like the Detroit Speed trailer, which was really cool. But it was interesting. He asked U-Haul. Interesting little tidbits you learn along the way. He asked U-Haul, "Can I have a spare tire just in case something goes wrong?" Okay. And U-Haul refused to give him a spare tire, citing that he was not qualified to be able to use that tire. Yeah. So he would have to call a U-Haul technician to come out and change the tire.
Bring a tire.
Yeah. So he was actually really tempted to rent a second trailer, take the tires off of it, just so he could have spares.
I wasn't qualified. It's something that I was watching. I was every day, more than once a day, I was logging on to the OneLap site, looking at the standings, and was quite surprised to see where all of you placed in the group of cars. I mean, you look at a lot of the vehicles that you finished ahead of. It was quite an impressive list. It kind of surprised me. Did anything surprise you, or any of the other vehicles surprise you, or weren't as fast as you thought they'd be?
One of the things about OneLap is it still is very much about the driver, and it's about, they say you can't, you need to finish to win.
True.
And a lot of the cars that did finish behind us, had issues, and then sooner or later everyone has issues. This is the one year where I think that we haven't had anything that's been really, really tragic, if you don't consider, buckets of blue smoke coming up behind your car to be bad. But there were some really cool cars that broke, went off track, or did whatever. But I was talking to my brother-in-law today because we finished. I think Mary and I finished 21st.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Well, who finished in front of you?" And I said, "Well, there were 11 Nissan GTRs and a couple others. I don't know." and he kind of said, "Really?" And I pulled up the results, and it was like GTR, Viper,
Yeah.
GTR, Viper, ZR1, GTR, on the Civic.
Quite impressive.
Yeah.
On the Civic.
On a Civic on steroids.
Of those, probably 8 of those were paid professional drivers. That's the neat thing about running this event is you're running with people who are paid professionals. I mean, who doesn't know Lee Keane? Who hasn't seen his video of him running the Nürburgring in the rain?
In the rain.
Yeah,
and amazing,
fabulous video, and getting to run alongside these folks, and when they're running these events, they're just part of the group, just like we are. You can walk up to Lee and talk to him, just like he's one of us, and it is really fun.
Great guy.
To be able to do that, and it's really great when you go out there and see them run their times, and you're not going to beat Lee in a GTR. You're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
But it's great to see how close you get, or how closer you are at this track than you were at that track. It's kind of fun to get that benchmark.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah, but James mentioned the CRX, and this is really where the driver comes into play. You've got Andy Hollis in a 1989 Honda CRX, something like that. Granted, it's not a stock CRX, but not only did he finish 10th overall in the one lap, but he drove every mile of the transit stages because his wife had some problems where she couldn't assist him driving. So he was the Iron Man of the whole thing. He was phenomenal. He did the whole thing by himself.
Wow.
Andy is an amazing individual. He's very methodical. He reminds me a lot of you, Carl, as far as being very purpose-minded and he calculates everything. I mean, he leaves nothing to chance. And multinational champion with autocross solo. Very good driver. He's probably one of the top. I'd have to say a top 10 of just being able to get in the car and go. And what's really funny is he bought the Porsche. Is it GT2 or GT3? GT something expensive.
The GT.
He's faster. He took the Porsche to one of the local tracks, and he's faster in the Honda Civic than he is in the Porsche.
Oh, wow.
I mean, go figure. And next year I think they're going to run the Porsche because it'll be a kinder, gentler one lap for his wife, Ann. She had back surgery about 8 weeks, I think, before the event, and this was a rough thing for her.
And she was an Iron Woman just for going along in the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not flying home.
That she didn't think she was going to be able to go.
Mm-hmm.
And she, at the last week, decided that, she was going to make it happen. And I can't imagine, after having back surgery and then riding around in that Honda for 3,600 miles.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
more on Andy. When they would get to the event, he would change the seat, pull out the passenger seat if he felt he needed to, and change brake pads. And he did that every single event. Yeah.
Last year for the dry skid pad at the very end, he pulled the back hatch off the car. If he could have pulled the doors off the car, he would have pulled the doors.
He took every ounce off of that car that he could.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
Just to get the weight up of it.
And he was top 10. He was 10th. He was 10th last year, or he's 10th in 2011. How did he finish last year in 2012?
Last year he was 10th.
Is he 10th? Yeah. So, and he was 10th this year too, which is just outstanding.
His co-driver last year was from Grassroots Motorsports, was one of the riders.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it was, he wrote a great article. It was interesting that what it was like to ride in that car on the transit stages was something like riding in a sewer pipe full of bees while getting punched in the kidneys.
4,000 miles of that.
Yeah. Hardcore.
Oh. Well, I'm not going to see Mary for a few months, so hopefully she'll forget I asked this, but what's Mary like drunk?
Oh, man.
That's some funny stuff.
I've seen a photo.
I'll tell you what, though, Mary is the cheapest drunk date you can have.
Oh, absolutely.
It only takes 2 of those.
Not even that.
That was great because that was the only night we went to a fancy restaurant. That was when we got back to South Bend, and James had made a reservation at a nice restaurant. And, of course, we all showed up in a grubby T-shirt and shorts, and they kind of looked at us funny, and they took us upstairs to this nice room. But we all decided to order a cocktail because we felt like we deserved it after all of that.
Lemon drop.
And Mary ordered a lemon drop. It came in this cool martini glass.
It was good.
And the look on her face when she got the first one was like awesome. She's like, oh, I'm in heaven. It was really good. And after she got about halfway through the first one, she goes, I think I'm only going to have one of these. And we were all like this. You're going to have another.
Throw me under the bus.
And Mary says some pretty funny shit anyway. Or stuff, excuse me. Mary says some pretty funny stuff most of the time anyway. And it just gets funnier with lemon drops.
Something I can't help notice I've been staring at here this whole evening is that helmet next to James.
Yeah. I didn't even know he was going to bid on the thing.
You got to tell us about that helmet. What is that? I see the signatures all over it.
I think I showed you this one. I didn't even think about it sitting here. This is a helmet I got at OneLap this year, and deal behind it. Throughout the week, one of the guys came around and said, we've got this really cool helmet. Would you sign it? So everyone in OneLap, there's Brock Jr. there on the top in silver. Everyone signed it. Carl's on here. Here's Carl. Jimmy, I'm sure, is on here somewhere, but I can't read the signature anyway.
Kind of right on the top.
Yeah, there it is. And at the end, they had a charity auction. Brock Yates Sr. has Alzheimer's. And to raise some money for charity, everyone auctioned off a bunch of really cool things. And I think Jimmy got a Zippo.
I did. I got one of two.
Yeah.
OneLap Zippo. Yep.
Neat.
And the helmet came around, and I'd kind of thought to myself earlier in the week, that'd be really cool to get it because it's a cool souvenir.
Yeah.
One of a kind.
And I kind of said to myself, but I've just been on the road for a week, and frankly, what I got left in my pocket's what I got left. And for whatever reason, I don't know what the reasoning is. It actually went pretty economically, and it was, again, it was for a charity. So I said, yeah, I'm all over that. I didn't think at the time I had no way to get it home.
So, they won't let you wear it on the airplane?
Yeah.
They get really funny on airplanes when you show up with anything over your head. So that was pretty much a strike. But
try going back with the rental car with your Nomex driver suit on. Try to return the rental car. Yeah.
That was actually a lot of fun. I mean, probably not as much fun. We were carrying some spare parts that Carl had manufactured for his VaporWorks fuel system. And it was a little electronic black box controller with a bunch of wires. And I think you tried to get that through. Well, it's the Wii.
Security.
Yeah, they gave it to me to bring back. I'm like,
stuff in Mary's case.
Yeah, here. Yeah, I look like
blows up a little
twin.
bit.
Oh.
But it's, one of the things, and it's a good point with the helmet. I think one of the things about OneLap that differentiates it from a lot of other stuff is OneLap's roots actually go back into charities. And, back in the day, the entry fee was $50 in a donation to charity. And this is, 30 years ago now. And a lot of the teams run for different charities. Carl was running for
Honor Flight.
The Honor Flight folks. We were running for the Even Start Foundation for Children, and there are guys running for a bunch of other different charities. And the Alzheimer's charity for Brock Sr. was a really big one because OneLap was Brock's, it was his baby in 1971 or 72 when he ran the first one. It was on a lark for a magazine article. And his son's been doing it for the last couple of decades now. But it's really neat just to see all these people with cars doing stuff, trying to help out other folks. It's reinforces a little bit of hope in our community, too.
Sure, definitely. Very cool. Okay, I have something to spring on you, all of you.
Oh, no.
You can't do it with the headphones on.
Every year we do kind of a themed T-shirt for the SEMA dinner. And I got something I had Ben Hermant put together, and I got delivered to me via email just like 2 days ago. Check this out.
Very cool.
Oh,
that's
nice.
awesome.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
the 2013 Pro-Touring.com's SEMA shirt.
Oh
Wow.
my
That's cool.
gosh.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's neat.
Larry, I can't thank you enough
Yeah.
for everything that you've done for us, the members of Pro-Touring.com. You guys helped us out a lot with our fuel and with our food, and again, we couldn't do things like we do without that kind of help. You've been so good for our community, and helping us get the word out and what we're doing, and really helping everybody that's involved in this really enjoy themselves more. I can't express my appreciation enough for you, Larry, for that.
I'm glad to help be part of it.
Couldn't say it better.
I'll pipe up because, when David Pozzi and I did OneLap for the first time, 4 years ago, I had no idea what we were in for, and I don't think Dave did either, and obviously he's never done it again, so he now knows. But one of the things that I did is I reached out on Pro Touring and I was throwing Hail Marys. I said, this is our route. If any of the members are on the route, if you could send maybe a phone number, a way to get a hold of you, so if we have a problem, at least there's someone we know. And I was bombarded. I think, and we've done it every year since, and I think we've got, I would be short to say we have a few hundred contacts along the OneLap route from Pro Touring members who have said, I have a garage, I have tools, if you need anything, call me, we'll come. And we do it every year now, and it's that kind of community that has some really supportive people and lets everyone be involved. It's really cool.
Yeah. And people
They
even
also come and see us at the tracks. I mean,
Yeah.
they know which tracks we're running, and we had a guy on one of the other forums, Nasty Z28. He has a second-gen Camaro, and I know he's also on Pro-Touring.com as well. We were at a gas station. We just left VIR, and he shows up, I guess turned around and saw us there, and went, I know those cars.
Yeah, he said, I told
yeah.
you
We thought he was
50
stalking
times
us.
to stop.
Well, we didn't know. I didn't know who he was, and then afterwards, I realized who he was, and I felt so bad because it was like, I wish we could have talked with him a little longer, but we were late. We needed to get going, but great guy.
And put it in perspective, 3,500 miles, 11 different tracks, and I'm 99% sure. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. We had people at every track.
I think so.
Every single
Came
one.
out to see one of the three of us or all three of us run.
Even at the autocross, which was in the middle of nowhere.
Nowhere.
I think we had people that came.
Yeah, it's really cool. There was an entire family that showed up at NOLA wearing our T-shirts.
Yeah, the Bill
that
Haney
was
family
awesome.
came out. Oh, they were great. They were all wearing our shirts. They stayed for the whole day. They were just super people. But it's those kinds of people that, James said earlier, about charities, that it gives you some faith in humanity. Well, having people like that come out, and just because of the goodness in their hearts is really just, it's inspiring to all of us.
Yeah.
very cool.
It was great.
Yeah, it sounds like just an absolutely awesome event. I'd love to go do. And I know that you all can't do it without the support of a lot of sponsors and spouses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this might be a good time for a bunch of you to say thanks to some of them.
We do. David is instrumental, hugely instrumental in making sure the OneLap car, is as best as it can be. I've helped a lot on the car. It was funny the first year, and I think James told him, said, well, if you don't want to do it next year, I'm going to ask Marion. Don't try and talk her out of it. But it actually suits me well. I can go without sleep, and James and I get along very well. We look for ways to keep the other entertained, and I don't think we've ever had a cross word or anything like that. But it works out well, and there's so many people that we want to thank, sponsors of the car. Dave for not pitching a fit when I want to be gone for 10 days, and okay, he's really pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, for me, it's very similar, both not just in the sponsors of the car, but for people like David and Mary. I mean, David's been like a mentor for me to better myself as being a car guy. James for letting me co-drive with him last year and getting to learn the ropes. So there's the people side of it that it's just as important as the sponsorship of the cars, and so thank you to those people, but having companies that are there to be able to back you up, like Hotchkiss, who did just a phenomenal job. At the same time we were doing shock tuning at the same time that Ridetech was doing shock tuning. Just companies like that are stepping forward and are spending their time and effort to help support not only the things that we do, but they transfer right over into the same products that they're going to sell to everybody.
Sure.
So everybody gets to be able to take advantage of what we're able to prove. So companies like Hotchkiss, like JCG, who did a bunch of aero work for me on the car, just great companies that are doing it more than just to be able to put a sticker on the side of the car.
Sure, absolutely. I know, like Jimmy Day, your car was known as the Center Force AMXS, right?
That's exactly right, and really, Carl mentioned it's the people. The folks at Center Force, Brian and Pat and Will, all of those guys. Not only do they make a great product, which quite frankly is as good as race car technology was just a few years ago, but they believe in us. They believe in us. They believe in what we're doing. They understand what we're doing, and it hits home with them. And so, yeah, the folks like Center Force, folks like Ridetech, my friends over at Willwood Disc Brakes do a great job, and they all share that commonality in that they believe in what we're doing. They believe that their parts should be on these cars and being out just getting the snot beaten out of them and showing that they really do work under some of the most grueling and difficult situations out there.
It doesn't get much more grueling than this.
No,
it doesn't.
So, James, I think you said, I'm pretty sure it was you, that it doesn't get much more pro touring than this.
Well, it's true, and back when we first set out to do OneLap, and we had the idea to approach sponsors, which 4 years ago or 5 years ago was really kind of an unknown. It was, coming up with why would a sponsor want to be involved in the OneLap project, and it's get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles. It's track day after track day after track day. The event is the epitome of performance. It's the epitome of longevity. And it demonstrates what I think every vendor out there is really trying to say about their product.
Sure.
We were really fortunate that Optima Batteries backed us for the first couple of years we were out there, and we still get called the battery car.
Yep.
Half the places we go to. But now we've got companies like Ridetech, and when we do sponsorship agreements with companies like that, it's not just about supporting what we're doing. We try and support them. We do development work for them. We try and give them, honest feedback. And you don't get much more honest feedback than what survives 10 days of hell.
It is grueling. It would kill me.
No. You gotta pick the right car, and you gotta pick the right co-driver, and you gotta work as a team. That's the important part.
Yeah.
You really do. I mean, a funny story about 2011. With Optima, I mean, we had Optima all over the side of the car and the flanks and everything, and we're driving along and somewhere in the deep south, and we passed this pickup truck, and this I kind of call it the golf truck because every panel had 18 holes in it, and this guy, he's wearing this old plaid shirt, and he's got rolled down the window, and we're like driving by and everything, just kind of minding our own business, and he leans out and he goes, "I got me a red top," and we just started dying. We thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
It's really fortunate. You look at the people who have supported us, especially this year, Ridetech with the shocks, Center Force with the clutch, HRE with the wheels, Bear with the brakes, and Carl Vaporworks with the fuel system. What we do to the car shows that these aren't just, gimmicky products that look good. There wasn't a single part. We did kind of limp in at the end here with the car, but we didn't have a single part break. We didn't have a single part fail, and it's really tough. And I think it's a testament to the quality of the product that people are making for our cars now.
Sure.
They're not flash in the pan parts. They're parts that can go the distance, and they, well engineered, well made. I mean, there were no questions about whether or not we chose the right parts for these cars.
Sure. That kind of event definitely will prove that.
Yep.
Yeah, you look at cars from 10 years ago, 12 years ago, in what you might consider the pro touring genre versus what you have available today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different set of parts that are available for people.
Sure.
It's just some great products that are available from the companies that James mentions, and it's great dealing with those people because they are as passionate as we are about making good products and making good cars.
And you got to hand it to Jimmy because there aren't a whole lot of parts made for his car.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of parts, and I was going to mention that because Carl, you kind of alluded to it, and Mary, you did as well. That it's not just the parts manufacturers now that have really stepped up, but it's the car builders as well that have stepped up and brought things up to the next level. Chris, you'd mentioned working with Carl. You'd mentioned working with Chris at JCG, and of course, I worked very closely with Randy Johnson at D&Z Customs, and I know James, you worked very closely with Dave, and these guys are putting cars together that can do this kind of stuff now, and that was literally unheard of. When I was growing up driving older beat up cars, I always thought one day I would love to have a muscle car that I could drive like an everyday car.
And you do.
And I've got that.
Mm-hmm.
I've put over 16,000 miles on my AMX since it was finished in November of 2011. And that's a huge testament not only to the parts that are being built now, but the car builders like Randy at D&Z who are putting these things together for us.
Sure. And how many of those miles are at wide open throttle? How many gallons of fuel have you run through it?
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
But Jimmy, I do know that you still have some of that younger person in you, because the night that we went out to dinner where Mary had the lemon drop martinis, there was a parking lot that we had to go to, which was a multi-level parking lot, one of these ones you had to spiral up to find a parking spot. And Jimmy was following me, and we're trying to find a place to park. And as we're going through the parking lot, you start hearing the chirping of
car
the
alarms
from the car alarm saying, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go off." And both Jimmy and I, at exactly the same time, start revving our engines to do burnouts in this parking structure and setting off all the car alarms. So, Jimmy, I'm glad you still got that in you, buddy.
That was fun.
What? I didn't do it.
Who, me?
Who, me?
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
This whole event was just great. I hope to be able to continue to run OneLap for many more years. As long as I can be a contributing part of a team, I want to do it. That's how I look at it.
She's mine.
Yeah.
Cheer that, Dave? Where's Dave?
Mary, I got $20 for you.
Nope.
It'd be cool to see, maybe we can get some more people out there and join you from the website,
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I've talked to Brett at RideTech, talked to John Hotchkiss, and I said, you guys, you need to find a co-driver. And I mean, like John Hotchkiss and his brother Mark, I hope they don't get an old muscle car to run with us because we'll be, yeah. We were really happy when we saw that Kyle Tucker was not in our class because we knew we would get our rears handed to us. But I was telling Brett, I said, you really need to look at doing this event. I mean, it is so much fun, and what a great way to showcase your products.
And the Vintage American classes has changed over the 4 years that we've run it. We were the only pro touring car the first year we did it. Mary and I ran 3 years ago. We were the only car in Vintage American. This year we had 3 pro touring cars, 4 if you count Michael and Damon in the 78, plus
2 others.
plus two others. I mean, the class had it was a big class, and I fully anticipate one day Vintage American will be the biggest class car count wise in one lap of America.
How cool would that be?
And you don't have to be. I tried to talking to Bill Haney and Nolan and other people. The one lap is an experience. It's not just going out and winning. It's the experience of doing it. And you don't have to win. You don't have to feel the pressure of winning. Just being able to go out, drive to these different places, go out and have a good time driving the tracks. Don't feel like you have to go out and drive 10/10ths all the time. Just going out and walking these tracks in the morning. It's just a phenomenal experience to be able to go. So don't feel like you have to win. There's always going to be somebody faster. That's one of the the rules of racing. But it's much, much more fun to go out and just go for the experience and live doing it than it is to have never done it.
Yeah.
I look at that and also take it kind of a little different perspective because, James is the owner of the car and I have a responsibility. To me, it's kind of part of a job. There's a job description, and one of the things is I need to really do the best I can for the team. And I do take it very seriously as far as being in that driver's seat when it's my turn to drive, and hoping to maximize the best results we can.
Well, and you were definitely taking it seriously last week with the Sawzall, weren't you?
Nice photos of you laying on the floor there, Mary.
Yeah. I know James' car is going through a big transformation again. New subframe,
subframe LS7. We're selling balls of Dynamat on eBay when they get done.
Nobody still want used Dynamat, but we have lots.
Well, and I guess this is a good time to throw out the fact that I just ordered the new Wiseco pistons this week for my stroker kit going into the AMX.
Oh man!
Nice.
Everybody's stepping it up for next year.
We have to. We really have to, because there's some cars that we know are being built or have been built yet have yet to actually make an appearance at One Lap. I mean, there's some pretty formidable cars out there that have never run yet, and if they do, it's going to really step it up.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see that the Vintage American class turn into the biggest class.
We think you should do it, Larry. We really think you should do it.
Believe me, I'd love to do it.
Yeah, do it. I mean, you're not getting any younger, and it needs to be. Yeah, you need to sit there and just go, I'm just going to do it.
Just bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah.
Right. All right, everybody. Anybody got anything else they want to say before we wrap this up?
Thank you.
I do have to say thanks to Dave. Mary touched on it, and certainly without Dave, and honestly without my wife and daughter's patience, this wouldn't be possible at all.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm right there with you, James.
Yeah.
I spent way too much time in this spot right here, working on the car and getting things ready. And without my wife and family, there's no way I could have done this. So yeah, definitely a big thanks to Chris and my family.
Very cool.
Yep, and I want to say thank you to all of you guys, because you've made this experience so much fun for me, and I want to just throw out a huge thank you to Randy Johnson, because he's really helped make one of my lifelong dreams come true.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right, everybody, you take care. Keep us all up to date on your plans for next year. I know James has already got a thread going with all the updates you can check out on Pro-Touring.com. And we will all talk to you soon.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Larry.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.